A pilgrim lay asleep, his feet pointed directly towards the holiest shrine in Mecca. An act of unimaginable sacrilege, a direct insult to God and tradition. Yet this wasn't disrespect at all. It was a sermon, echoing across centuries about where to truly find the divine. This pilgrim was Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the visionary founder of the Sikh faith. He had embarked on extensive journeys, known as udasis, traveling far beyond his native Punjab, venturing into the heart of the Middle East. He moved not with an army, but with quiet, profound wisdom, challenging rigid religious dogma not with aggression, but with an unwavering commitment to inner truth. He refused to let outward forms eclipse the true spirit of devotion. Have you heard this remarkable story before, perhaps from your grandparents or in a moment of quiet reflection? It's a story that reshapes our understanding of faith itself. It was the late 15th or early 16th century when Guru Nanak Dev Ji, accompanied by his faithful companion Bhai Mardana, arrived in the sacred city of Mecca. They were seekers, dressed simply, traversing vast lands to understand different spiritual paths and to share their own emerging insights. Mecca, for followers of Islam, is the spiritual heart of their world, and within it stands the Kaaba, a cube-shaped building which is the most reverent sanctuary, the focal point for all Muslim prayers. Entering the holy city, Guru Nanak understood the deep reverence it commanded. After a long day's journey, as night descended, Guru Nanak sought a place to rest. He lay down in the courtyard of the Grand Mosque, finding a spot among many other pilgrims. In his sleep, whether by chance or deliberate design to provoke thought, his feet came to point directly towards the Kaaba. For any Muslim, this was an affront of the highest order, a blatant disregard for the sacred direction, the Qibla, to which millions prayed daily. As dawn approached, a local cleric, Rukun-ud-Din, made his rounds, ensuring the sanctity of the holy site was maintained. His eyes fell upon the sleeping fakir, this wandering holy man, with his feet pointing directly at the most sacred house of God. A wave of indignation washed over him. How could anyone be so ignorant, so disrespectful? His face flushed with anger, he strode over, his voice sharp with accusation. "Oh, you, infidel! How dare you lie with your feet towards the house of God?" Rukun-ud-Din demanded, his voice cutting through the morning quiet. He nudged Guru Nanak awake, his hand probably hovering, ready to forcefully turn the disrespectful stranger. The accusation hung heavy in the air, charged with generations of tradition and deeply held belief. This was more than just a complaint. It was a challenge to the very foundation of reverence. Guru Nanak slowly opened his eyes, his gaze calm, untroubled by the cleric's fury. He looked at Rukun-ud-Din, then towards the Kaaba, then back at the angry man. There was no defiance in his eyes, no apology, just a quiet understanding. "Good sir," Guru Nanak replied, his voice soft, "I am weary from my journey. If you find my feet disrespectful, I beg you, turn them in any direction where God does not reside." Imagine the silence that followed. The morning air, perhaps still cool, suddenly seemed to thicken. Rukun-ud-Din, prepared for an argument, for an apology, or even for insolence, was met instead with this astonishing request. Turn them where God is not? His mind reeled. How could he? How could anyone turn a body in a direction where the Almighty was absent? Was God not omnipresent? Was he confined to this one structure, this one city? The question itself was a hammer blow against the rigid walls of his understanding. It forced him to confront a truth he intellectually knew, but emotionally, habitually, compartmentalized. God, by definition, is everywhere. To point away from the Kaaba would still be to point somewhere, And if God is everywhere, then that somewhere would also contain God. The very premise of his anger began to crumble under the weight of this simple, irrefutable logic. According to the accounts of the time, Rukun-ud-Din, utterly bewildered, reached down and began to turn Guru Nanak's feet. But as he did, legend says, the entire Kaaba seemed to turn with them. Whichever way he tried to point the pilgrim's feet, the sacred edifice followed, rotating as if tethered to Guru Nanak's form. This wasn't a physical impossibility. It was a profound spiritual revelation. The entire scene was an immediate, visceral demonstration of Guru Nanak's point. God cannot be contained or localized. The spectacle, whether literal or a powerful symbolic representation of the cleric's inner realization, left Rukun-ud-Din stunned. Other pilgrims and locals, drawn by the commotion, witnessed this extraordinary event. They looked from the calm fakir to the bewildered cleric and then to the Kaaba, understanding that something truly profound had just transpired. The anger in the cleric's heart dissolved, replaced by awe and a deep sense of humility. He was no longer looking at an infidel, but at a true man of God, one who had delivered a sermon not with words, but with an unspoken challenge to perception. Rukun-ud-Din fell to Guru Nanak's feet, not in anger, but in reverence. He understood the profound lesson. God is not bound by directions, by structures, by specific places, or by human-made rituals alone. The divine is an all-pervading presence, inherent in every atom of existence. True devotion, therefore, is not about external orientation, but about internal realization, about aligning one's heart with this omnipresent reality. True devotion, therefore, is not about external orientation, but about internal realization, about aligning one's heart with this omnipresent reality. For Rukun-ud-Din, that realization was a seismic shift. He saw the world anew, stripped of the rigid interpretations that had obscured the boundless nature of the divine. The simple act of a sleeping pilgrim had shattered his ingrained beliefs, not through argument or dogma, but through an undeniable, almost mystical experience. The whispers among the crowd that day weren't of sacrilege, but of wonder, a quiet revolution stirring in the hearts of those who witnessed it. They had expected an argument, perhaps even punishment for what they perceived as an insult. Instead, they received a profound, wordless sermon. This was no ordinary traveler. This was a teacher who spoke without words, who performed no feats of magic, but merely revealed a truth that had been hidden in plain sight. What Guru Nanak demonstrated in that sacred space, under the silent gaze of the Kaaba, was a profound challenge to the very idea of religious exclusivity. He didn't seek to convert Rukun-ud-Din or anyone else to a new faith. His purpose was far deeper, to awaken the understanding that the divine cannot be caged within a building, a direction, or a set of human-made rules. It pervades all. This was the essence of his travels, often referred to as the Udasis, long spiritual journeys he undertook across vast swaths of Asia, engaging with Sufis, yogis, Brahmins, and common people alike. In each encounter, he sought to break down the walls of division and dogma, pointing instead to the universal thread of divinity that binds all existence. You can imagine the impact of such a man, moving through a world so deeply fractured by religious boundaries, daring to declare that God was neither east nor west, neither in temple nor mosque, but everywhere, within every heart. His message cut through centuries of ritual and doctrine, resonating with a pure, unadulterated truth that transcended all labels. The encounter at Mecca was not an isolated event. It was a potent symbol of his entire mission, a radical simplicity that offered liberation from the confines of superficial religiosity. It spoke to the common human experience, reminding us that reverence isn't about where you point your feet, but where you direct your heart. It spoke to the common human experience, reminding us that reverence isn't about where you point your feet, but where you direct your heart. This profound simplicity cut through centuries of accumulated dogma, offering a direct path to the divine, accessible to all, regardless of creed or custom. This incident at Mecca became one of the most powerful parables in Sikhi, the spiritual path founded by Guru Nanak. It emphasized the core belief that God is one, without form, beyond distinctions of religion or geography, and resides within the heart of every being. It was a direct challenge to the idea that divinity could be owned or confined by any single group or tradition. It preached unity, universalism, and the internal journey over mere outward observance. What was truly at stake in that moment in Mecca was not just the sanctity of a building, but the very nature of worship and spiritual understanding. Guru Nanak wasn't disrespecting a holy site, he was unveiling a deeper truth that transcended it. He was teaching that true reverence lies in recognizing the divine everywhere, in everyone. And to confine God to a single direction or structure is to diminish the boundless glory of the Creator. It meant that the pilgrim, the seeker, is more important than the pilgrimage itself, and the inner state of the heart far outweighs the external posture of the body. His act wasn't just a lesson for Rukun-ud-Din, it was an eternal message for all humanity, dissolving artificial boundaries and reminding us that God is truly, wonderfully, always within reach.